What's up, people? This is Dan from GuitarFromTheHeart.com. Long time no see. And today, I need to show you something. There we go. All right, my work here is done. Nah, I'm just kidding. But that's what I'm going to show you today. It's a bit hot in here. I might sweat. I apologize in advance. So guys, today is not going to be a lot of demonstration, but a simple concept. This is geared mostly towards beginners, but maybe even if you're a little farther along, it might be applicable. You might learn something today, so don't just switch out just yet. And for those of us who have been at it for quite a while, it's always good to review certain things that we tend to put on the back burner because they just become automatic, to take a look at those things again. So what I want to talk about today is the sweet spot. You know, mostly everything in life has a sweet spot, you know? Like a narrow range where in that little narrow window, that sweet spot, things work out best, right? I mean, I grew up being a guy who played a lot of sports, and when I was in high school, I got heavily into kicking and into punting a football. Like I could actually spiral football off of my foot. And I learned that my foot has a sweet spot and so does the ball. Same thing, like if you're hitting a baseball, that bat has a sweet spot on it, so does the ball that you're hitting. And it's like this with everything in sports. With timing, if you're doing a jump shot in basketball, where you release it and how you release it, it comes off your hand a certain way, like a sweet spot, right? So everything has a sweet spot. In guitar, whenever you're playing a note, that note has a sweet spot. And guess what? It's right here. Show that clip again that I showed before. It's right here on the tip of your finger. There's a sweet spot on your fingertip. And there's another sweet spot that it needs to make contact with on the guitar of itself, on the fret. So each of your fingers has a sweet spot. Depending on the context of what you're playing, that might vary from situation to situation, where on your fingertip the sweet spot is. But each fret also has its own sweet spot. Exhibit A. Here's the guitar. So if we're to look at, say, the G note here, if you were to take your finger and put it right smack in the middle of that fret, that's not the sweet spot. Now we tend to think when we're playing, we want to play right in the middle of each fret, right? No, you want to play in the middle, but a little bit towards this way, towards the body of the guitar, in the middle, a little bit towards the body. So between the middle and the fret wire of itself, if that's what you call it, fret wire, the metal piece of the fret, right there in between is where your sweet spot is. So if you're playing your notes more towards the head or just in the middle of the note, you're not getting maximum effect. You're not hitting the sweet spot of that fret. The sweet spot is right here, okay? And you want to do that ideally as much as you can with every note that you play, whether it be a chord, whether it be individual notes. And you want to match up the sweet spot on your finger, which is not on the pad in the front. Like if you're, I don't know if you know how to type on a keyboard. Like I don't know if anybody does anymore. But like if you think like the tip of your finger, if I'm pointing at you, right? Then three fingers are pointed back. No, never mind. If I'm pointing at you, the tip that's going towards you is closer to where the sweet spot is. Now, I always like to think of the Guitar Hero game, because a lot of people got introduced to guitar when that came out like 10 years ago or whatever, and they're just playing like this, you know? Just putting their whole finger towards the fret. If you approach pressing down your notes that way, it's gonna be a mess. You wanna come more like, if you're pointing at somebody, the tip coming in to, I don't know how well you can see this So your finger kind of curls and goes into the fretboard in a curling motion like this. If this is the fretboard, in a curling motion. Right, so your finger comes in more like this motion, not like this, not like this, but in a more of a curling motion into the fret. Also, notice where I'm located. Not in the middle of the fret, but more this right here, which is where the sweet spot is. You don't want to get too curly going into the note, because then you can end up with excess tension. You don't want to hook your finger too hard. Just enough that you could get your fingertip to go in nice and well into that note. That part of your fingertip, right where the dent is, I don't know if you can see it, where the dent is on my finger, that's where the sweet spot is on your fingertip, and you want that to hit the sweet spot of the note. The reason I show this is because, hey, you might have overlooked it. I know I don't think about it too much, but at some point I practice it to where all the time, this is what I do on like a subconscious level now. There are times where you can't get the sweet spot of your fingertip into the sweet spot of the note perfectly always, because maybe your dexterity is not the greatest for a new skill, like or a new chord or whatever. Sometimes you can get away with using more of the fleshy part of your fingertip. It's not as ideal, because when you're using that sweet spot of your fingertip, you're getting the bony part, the bone underneath, into the action, if you will. You're getting it into the note. Listen, that's all I got for you guys today. It's just something that I think is really important, but I don't really see a lot of people talking about often. It's really like a technique thing. But if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, check out your form and see if you're doing this in different playing situations. Check yourself and see, well, am I hitting a sweet spot? And usually, like with anything in sports in general, or in music, being a musician as well, it's a physical activity. It's, well, how good does it feel? You know when you shoot that basketball and you feel it leaving your fingertip and you're like, I got this, right? Just feeling it leave your fingertip, you know you got it. You hit the sweet spot. Do you feel like you're hitting a sweet spot when you're playing? If not, you might want to check out what's going on. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts about technique and things that we tend to overlook that might really help, leave a comment below. And hey, you might even help me out, and you can help each other out by sharing your knowledge. The goal of this channel is to help everybody to get to the point where they can play the guitar straight from their heart without hindrance. And so you want to hit the sweet spot. If you don't hit the sweet spot, it's very difficult. If you don't land on the sweet spot, it's very difficult to be able to get an effective vibrato, an effective slide, or anything that's more than just playing a note, where you need to follow up and vibrate or follow up and slide. If you miss the sweet spot, it becomes a lot more challenging to execute that move. If you're struggling with any of those techniques, you might want to check out first if you're hitting a sweet spot. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn from me, out of all the gazillions of videos that are on YouTube. YouTube is an awesome resource, and I'm just grateful to be able to share my experience and to be a blessing to you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, play the guitar from the heart, and have fun with that. I'll see you in the next video.